Welcome everyone, my name is Chris, aka The Philosopher's Games, and this is a new experimental format where I give you a little review or first impressions of a game. I recorded the footage separately and just talk freely over it, so no script for the most part and maybe with a few cuts here and there, which makes producing this tremendously faster, maybe resulting in more content on my channel. Today we look at Wigmund, the Return of the Hidden Knights, which might be interesting for some Tolkien fans too. The small indie developer called The Scholastics contacted me and sent me a free Steam key to check out the game they are currently developing. It's an RPG and released at the 25th of February 2021 as part of the early access program of Steam. What got my interest was that they are also Tolkien fans and that their story is inspired by Anglo-Saxon mythology, which was, among other things, also a huge influence for Tolkien. We for example see directly that Beowulf, the legendary Old English epic poem, is mentioned. I try to discuss this a bit while we go through the footage. I also completed this early access beta version in around 2 to 3 hours. It's only the third chapter and of course the game will be expanded further in the future until its full version is released. So all you see here is subject to change because the game is still in development and not finished yet. But enough talking, let's start. The first thing we notice is that we control 3 characters in this game. We can actually only control one of them, that is the hero, Wigmund, or Wigmund if you pronounce it Old English. He has one companion, this guy with a bow, a bit stealthy he seems. His name is Wigmund, or Wigmund. And interestingly, that's our first parallel to the Beowulf mythology or to the Beowulf story. There's also a character called Beowulf, and that is a companion or later companion of Beowulf who helps him fight his dragon while all the other companions flee. In the end, Beowulf dies because, at least that is the claim of Beowulf, that he died because the other fled from battle. And interestingly, the name Beowulf translates to Remainer in battle, and Wigmund, the character, the companion in this game, also translates to stone in battle, or maybe standing in battle, holding in battle, something like this. And that is, I assume, a parallel. Also, I guess the whole story here is inspired a bit by Beowulf, and also Wigmund means something like protection through battle or something like this. Very interesting. As we see here, we have to do quick saves and quick loads. So it's very classical in that regard. And here we come to the combat. And here's my first little problem that I encountered. The controls of this game feel a bit unusual. Let's put it this way. It has the idea of a gesture control. So you hold down, if you play with mouse and keyboard, you hold down the control key and then you have to swipe with your mouse and press the left mouse button at the same time, and then you can do one of 3 attacks. There's a swipe, then there's like a thrust attack and some uppercut attack. And I assume the swipe attack has the purpose of attacking multiple enemies, and one of the other attacks has a purpose of turning around or turning towards an enemy while hitting. So that is actually not bad to have that, but it feels very unintuitive, in my opinion, to do this, and that makes the combat feel a bit clunky. Also, as you can see, if you run and attack, you just stand still for a moment, so you really commit to an attack. However, I switched from mouse and keyboard to controller, which I got in the email where I got the key with, that they implemented controller support for the game, which is kind of great. And there, every attack of those 3 is on a separate button. It makes it far easier to control. Here, sadly, something terrible happens. I get stuck in the wall. I can't get out of here. There's also, as you can see, a roll. You can also roll. That's also on a separate button. If you would do this with mouse and keyboard, you also would have to do the roll. Hold down control, hold the right mouse button, and make a gesture, and then you roll into the direction of the mouse cursor. that works on paper, but it takes a lot of time to get used to, and I would say it plays far better with a controller. So there's that. As you can see, sometimes it switches down there. Now you see the buttons, Z, X, and so on. And when you play controller, you see L1. And so I use a PlayStation controller in case people wonder. It seems to actually also reflect this here, which is kind of cool, I guess. Sadly, I had no save game before the door, so we have to kill all the spiders again. But now we can see a bit of the combat here and there again. Which is, I got used to it, I have to admit. Also, when you use a controller, which helps. I'm not sure if you can do this with the normal controls too, because I did not spend too much time trying out the keyboard controls. I did this in like a previous attempt. And you can lock onto enemies, which I find out later here in this playthrough, that you can actually lock on enemies, and that makes hitting them a lot easier. I feel like dodging around, it works, you get used to it, but it feels a bit, still in development. And just to clarify, the game is still in development. It's early access, it's not out yet, and I think out of 4 or maybe even 6, I'm not sure what number was mentioned in the text, planned chapters. This is only one chapter, and that is chapter 3, I think it is. And yeah, here we fight against those spiders again, and yeah, it feels a bit like a band of 3 people close to each other fighting very mythological beings, and in a little story here that is heavily inspired by Celtic and Anglo-Saxon mythology. The setting alone is kind of cool. Now here's something very interesting. Look at the head. You see he has a helm now. So that is a thing I like, and it's also unusual. As you can see, you have all kinds of body protection. The 2 slots there are for the knees, and you have 2 for the arms, and I think additional thing for the arm and shoulders and whatnot. So, and you actually don't get 1 shoulder, you need 2. So we can even have different shoulders with different stats and so on, which is kind of cool. Also, and that is what I mentioned when I said now you see the helmet, the character changes. Most of the icons you equip you can see in the game. So what you find in the game, what you have in your inventory, and what you equip then, you also see on your character, which is kind of cool. They use some of the spells, so there's L1, which is like swinging around doing extra damage, and then L2, which is also kind of neat. It is like an explosion that knocks back or stuns a little bit the enemies around you, if I understood it correctly. And also what it does is that it actually helps, gives you a little buff that I think increases your speed or something like this. So you get a bit faster or maybe wreck more energy. Of course. There's a health bar, that's the red bar. If you look at the character portraits at the top left, there's a green bar. The green bar is something like your stamina, and the yellow bar is basically your mana for those special attacks. All of them except for health, I guess, regen automatically. Else, maybe there are potions later in the game. I'm not sure. There's definitely health potions and food in the game that recovers health over time. However, when your stamina is empty, you can still attack and still roll. All it does, if I understood it correctly, is that now you can basically get knocked back if you get hit. So here I just test around with those attacks, and you can somewhat combo into them. You can do 2 stripes and then like a thrust attack or something. However, I found out, and I've seen it earlier in the battle, that this thrust attack, you can do this one here. You can do pretty fast. So often I end up spamming this thrust attack in this game to cheese it a bit. As you probably know from my Twitch streams, I like to cheese a lot, and that's how it works. Yeah, you can see the food that you can take and eat, and it will recover your health. It also recovers if you take your health potion, I think at least, out of combat, or food. Also your companions regenerate health. And it's a bit, maybe later in the game you can also equip them or give them different weapons and level them up, but right now it seems, at least I didn't find it, was not part of the game. Maybe they do a safety save, of course. And sorry for just staying around and hitting like the barrel, but I really had to figure out, okay, how does the system work? I didn't get it, to be honest, when I first started playing this game. It takes a bit to get used to, and this is definitely a field they potentially can improve the game further. What's also nice is you can, maybe I shut up for a moment, you heard in the background, the music. There's these, yeah, there's this chanting of this woman. There's a singer, really atmospheric, and also the graphics look great, especially in combination. You will later, maybe you won't see because we won't get that far here in this video. Maybe I just cut to it much later, or maybe at this place here make a little cut, how you look later in the game. So we get cool armor and a lot of stuff. That's pretty cool. We have those statues that follow you. I assume that's a mythological reference too. And I was confused by them. What are they doing? Am I supposed? Are they getting angry when I open this chest there in the back? That were my thought there. Maybe. We found like a little more treasure here. There's a button to take all, of course, and whatnot. Kind of neat. Visually, the game looks also good, I guess. I like it. Yeah, I'm really confused by those things. And here we find basically a sword and a shield. So here we would have the option to switch to shield and a one-handed weapon. But I like two-handed weapons a lot, so I only went for two-handed weapons in this playthrough. Also does less damage. So I think, shall we go with a shield and normal sword? No, let's go with the two-handed sword. That's what I prefer much. Here we have shoulders now. One shoulder only. And you can see it also in the screen down there that we only have one shoulder, not two. I think at least. I didn't zoom in. But that at least should be the case. And that's pretty neat. Maybe it's different in the visualization. Those dogs are actually quite nasty. And you see me struggling with hitting. That's when a lot of people, I just saw some Steam reviews say that the combat is quite clunky. That's exactly what what they write. That sometimes it feels a bit clunky. Can totally relate to this. But I definitely see potential in this game. Sometimes also your teammates seem to be a bit not that smart, but it's to be expected. You definitely get better at this game, though. I have to admit this, that later in the game, suddenly it makes click and things become easier. The controls hassle less with the controls, so it works like that. But the original learning curve or getting to the game is a bit steep. But here you see me using this attack and think, oh, this attack is pretty good. So as long as I can do this, it works. But like I said, it's an little indie game. I'm not sure how many people worked on this game. Like on the page they are listed 3. I think they are all brothers, or at least related to each other. Kind of interesting. I'm not sure where they are from. I assume from Italy or something, because on the YouTube page on the About section it says Italy, but I could be wrong here. Maybe the developer can write in the comments in case he would ever see this video. Yeah, now you see I'm in trouble. My other big guy is already dead, and there are a ton of people, so we can't recover this. We are basically dead. There's this one big dude. Then I also hit the wrong direction. It's terrible. Like I say, it takes a while to get used to the controls in this game. It was like a mistake pulling so many enemies there. I try. You can see that I also try to recover, to heal up there. I did not found out yet that you can basically put health potions, yeah, that's my first game over, health potions into your quick slot. So that's maybe a good point to switch. Okay, here we are in this little riddle section. Well, it's not really a riddle, it basically got told what you have to do, and then this thing here opens. this secret entrance opens. And we see also a little dialogue system, which is great and also necessary in an RPG. I don't know if there will be choices later in the game, or like little dialogues that maybe change some details, change the ending. I don't expect that, to be honest, but it's still nice to have like different dialogue options here and there. I hope they expand on this, because this beta of the game was so far very, very not dialogue heavy, but combat heavy. And so in that regard, the combat must carry the game so far a lot. And as you can see, there it might be a bit problematic and still need some fine-tuning here and there. However, I found out that you can lock onto enemies here already. So you see the white dot at the enemy, and then we follow him, which makes combat suddenly far, far more enjoyable than without that. I also looked it up. You can do it on keyboard too by pressing tab, so it works both. And it's pressing the right stick down on the controller to lock in enemies. That works. You also see me sometimes hitting to the air or jumping back from a chest because I simply press the wrong button for it. It's a bit unusual. You have to press digipad right to collect things and open doors. It's quite unusual, but you get used to it, and then suddenly you don't notice it anymore. Yeah, there's a lot of loot. Got some food, which is nice, which regenerates health. It's pretty much needed. So all those enemy hordes you have to kill and fulfill your tasks. This little room here had nothing to collect or anything in it. It was just maybe for the mood, or maybe for later development through the game, that they place stuff here and revisit some areas and maybe, I don't know, place some notes or some background story that you can find. That would be pretty neat. So far, the game's pretty straightforward, but as said, it's very early still in development. And you can also see, if I put away the helmet or stop carrying it, you unequip, that's the word I was looking for. You see that the helmet vanishes in the game too. When I put a other shoulder, like the right shoulder is now different from the left shoulder armor, that is pretty neat, I have to admit. I think there are probably games that do this similar, but you also see a lot of detail on all those armor pieces, which is pretty neat. It works even for the knee protection, and also for the boots. I think we also switched to the one-handed weapon now, just to demonstrate, and the shield, which is kind of nice. Yeah, here you see the shield, pretty nice detail on it, looks great. Now this is how it looks when you have the sword drawn out and can block with it. And then there's also a second shield that we have that is also quite nice. But I prefer the two-handed weapons, and that is why I switched back to my trusty axe, which is kind of nice. Here it's another interesting detail we actually see. We see this holy man there who looks like, it looks like Christianity, like a priest. And Beowulf is more, let's call it, pagan in comparison. No, it's not in comparison, it's pagan is probably the right term for it. And yeah, clashing mythology with Christianity is actually something that happened. We found this, for example, in Beowulf's story itself. There is the figure Grendel, which is the villain of the Beowulf story, and he is said to be related to Cain from the Bible. So there is definitely connections, and you see those mythology and Christianity clash and even fuse in some cases like this, which is kind of interesting. And this game actually catches this part of this fusion too, and has also Christian elements in it, which is, my opinion, necessary and very cool to see. So they did probably good research on what they're doing. It also in the old English names and so on. It's pretty neat what they did there. And you see this this hero with his companions going on a quest. Just remember Barahir from the first age in Lord of the Rings, or even Bilbo and the dwarves going on their quest. It's actually an interesting parallel between Beowulf and the Hobbit in the regard that Bilbo steals from Smaug and he becomes quite angry. And this also happens in Beowulf, where a slave of Beowulf steals from the dragon, and the dragon goes on a killing spree and starts killing people and gets really angry because a golden cup is missing from his hoard. So we see those elements in both, and we see how this potentially has inspired Tolkien. However, Tolkien comments on this in one of his letters and says that is maybe more an accident, or maybe just an unconscious decision that this happened. It was part of the story that it was needed that Bilbo steals something from the dragon, and not necessarily like a planned reference. But still, the parallel is still there, and it makes sense in a mythology in that regard. So in this way, I think if this game continues to catch the old English or the Anglo-Saxon mythology and the Celtic mythology so well, do you want to explore this and see what stories also, to some degree at least, inspired Tolkien himself, this might be a pretty good opportunity to do so. However, as mentioned, the game is very early in beta and not finished yet, so you can't probably expect there to be, if you just play through it in like 2 to 3 hours, that you then are an expert on Old English or Anglo-Saxon mythology. That will probably not be the case, but still, if it's one day finished, I can definitely see how you can explore certain parts of the mythology then. So to come to a conclusion here and not repeat previous points, I think the combat still needs some work in this game, but of course, I rarely played betas of games where I said, oh, everything is perfect, you can just release it tomorrow. That's not the case, and this is very early versions. The other, I think 5 or was it 3 chapters, I think it's 5 chapters, are not in the game yet. So they're still very early in development when it comes to this, and this is more like a 3-hour-long demo level, which is kind of neat to get their idea across and see if people are interested in this. And I can definitely see that people might be interested, and that's also one reason why I picked it up, because, as just mentioned a moment ago, the ties to the Anglo-Saxon mythology, which also inspired Tolkien. And it's an interesting setting that probably is rarely covered in games. So I see a lot of potential here in this little indie game that people might like it. It might be a bit niche, but it's interesting. It's still, like I said, the combat needs some time to get used to. I would so far say playing it with a controller and knowing, oh, I can lock on into to enemies, really improved the experience of combat in this game tremendously. I hope that they will work on this further and continue to improve the combat here. So far, I often feel like I'm mashing the same button too often to kill enemies, and this is just the mid difficulty. If I would imagine that on a higher difficulty, the enemies just get more HP and I have to mash even more, and they probably do more damage or so. I would definitely not help the combat in this game, I guess. So to improve that further, they probably need to find a different way. There are only 3 abilities in this game too, so there's definitely also potential. So far I found the abilities interesting and useful though. And I can see how they improve. They also have a lot of armor, and they also set bonuses for if you collect multiple armor pieces and so on. So there's all the classical RPG loot stuff is in the game, at least hinted at. We will see how this will look in the finished game, but as I said, a lot of potential slumbers in this game. I hope that is everything. So maybe check it out, maybe put it on your wish list, or I don't know. Keep it in mind that this game exists. I will probably look into it when more chapters are released, or when the game finally comes out and is completed. I wish the developers a lot of success and good luck with this game. I hope they can make it work, and that a lot of people will find it interesting. Thank you, people, for watching. Next video will be also gaming related, I assume. After that, I will probably go a bit into, no, not a bit, I'll definitely make a lore video. Elrond is the matter for the next lore video. It might be a longer video. Yeah, so there will be more content on my channel. That's basically what I wanted to say. I hope you like this experimental little video. If so, leave a comment. Let me know what you think about it. Or should I go for the more scripted approach? Or is this as like a little exceptional video that I can put out much faster? Also, still fun enough to watch for people that usually watch my gaming stuff. I'm curious definitely about feedback here. And if you liked it, also press the like button. That helps a lot. So stay safe and healthy wherever you are. Fantastic rest of the evening. Thank you again for watching, and goodbye.